My patron members voted for me to make a video turning fridged women into main characters of their own stories. If you're unfamiliar with the term fridged women, it was coined by author Gail Simone, who has made some of my favorite Batgirl comics in the world, and she was the creator of a website called Women in Refrigerators, which talked about this trope that was happening in comics at the time, where women were killed off in gruesome ways at the expense of their own character development, just for a male character to gain character development. Now, I think the concept of taking these characters and re-giving them agency has been done before to great length. I'm thinking particularly of Gwen Stacy from, the Spider-Verse saga, where Gwen Stacy was famously Peter Parker's first girlfriend and was killed. However, an alternate universe version of her is the crime fighter, is the main character in her comic, gets to have agency and development, and we learn what she thinks and feels. And so I wanted this to be a very DC-centered video, and I chose Silver St. Cloud and the character Pandora. And rounding out the group is a suggestion given by longtime patron Johan Johnson, who talked about Alex DeWitt or Barbara Gordon, and I chose Alex because she was the original fridged woman. So we're jumping straight into the speed draw, and I'll explain who these three women are and what they're all doing in the same illustration. And I'm going to start with the very first fridged woman, who is Alex DeWitt. Now, she was killed off in the comics and was dating Green Lantern at the time. She didn't get very much character development. We know that she's a reporter and that she takes pictures for the newspaper. And I was very struck in her design with how she had these cowboy boots. I thought that was just such an interesting, quirky touch. So I went with sort of a Southern Gothic motif for her. Because she was killed and stuffed into a refrigerator, very gruesome. And in the lore of Green Lanterns, there's this thing called the Black Lanterns, who are a group that represent death, and they're historically villains, and it's argued of whether or not they are actually the undead, being made live again, and now they're evil, or if they're just the bodies being used by some sort of malevolent spirit. In this canon world, my way to give her agency is Alex DeWitt has been brought back to life, and she has a Black Lantern ring, but she is not evil. She is the only person who has this ring but has maintained her former memories and consciousness, and now she's trying to figure out why this is. How come all of the other Black Lantern rings have been destroyed and they were evil, and now she has one, but she wants to use it for good. And so, of course, this is going to put her at odds with both villains and heroes, because she's trying to, figure this out. And even in the comic, something that was interesting about her was I thought when I saw this cover that they did a Gwen Stacy version of the character, and that she was brought in from another dimension where, guess what? She lived and her Green Lantern died, and so she got the ring and picked up the mantle. Well, it turns out that none of that was true. It was all a ruse. And this is not a version of Alex from another dimension. It's just a construct made by the Green Lantern because he's grieving and needs someone to talk to. So she eventually figures this out and is like, oh, for you to stop the big bad of the week, I can't exist anymore because I'm not real. So she wasn't from another dimension. She wasn't given agency. She was just the imaginary friend of a guy who was mourning. And I just thought that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting reading more comics with her in it. Her sister regularly visits her grave, so I would love to explore that dynamic a little more. And just have a story of her, we're not doing the Gwen Stacy alternate video version. I was more inspired by Laudna from Critical Role, who was a woman who was killed with several other people to advance the main character's plotline. And it could be argued whether or not Laudna was a fridged woman, because she was arguably killed to, promote the character development of Vexhalia, who is also a female character, and also men and women were killed in the same scene, so it's a little different than the actual trope. But Laudna is an undead woman who's really funny and has so much life and energy, and I just love what she represents. So those were the vibes that I wanted to bring in for Alex. And so the other character here, who is in a very, nice pinstripe suit, but, without a shirt, is Silver St. Cloud, who is a Batman girlfriend of the week. And she is most famous for solving that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person. Like, only a couple people in the comics have ever done this. It's like her and Tim Drake, and I'm sure maybe a couple other people. So that's like a very big deal. And she was just gruesomely killed off for no reason by getting like cut on the throat by a Batman villain to make Batman go like, oh no, my life is tragic. So that's why I gave her the scarf around her neck. So in this version of reality, she survived that attack. Pay no attention to the line from where I was zoomed in and then zoomed out. But I just wanted to make her more like a detective character. So in my centering her and her narrative, she's like this rich socialite in the comics, and I like the idea of Silver being this secret detective, and her whole thing is solving and matching secret identities with Max-caped crusaders. So whether you're a villain or a hero, she's the one tracking down all this information. She's the one in charge of all the cameras, and she's the one figuring out who is who. And what she's doing in this illustration is she is currently trying to figure out the secret identity of the third party, which I'm about to explain right now. So the third character is actually a Fridged woman who is a villain. Her name is Pandora, and she was kind of pivotal for the new 52 arc of the DC universe. And I won't explain what that is, but just know that this villain was set up to be like a world-ending big bad villain who changed the game, shifted literally everything, rewrote history and time itself, so like extremely powerful, and then she was randomly killed in the middle of an alleyway in order to set up a different big bad. And spoilers, it was Mr. Manhattan from Watchmen, which is fine, whatever, except it's not fine. I wanted super big, bad, evil Pandora. Gee willikers. So, in this version of reality, that didn't happen. She is the big bad. She did warp the time-space continuum and completely reshape reality for her own evil purposes, and we're going to explore what that is. So she's on the hunt because she needs to re-kill and steal that Black Lantern ring from Alex. So she's tracking down Alex, and then Silver is trying to figure out Pandora's secret identity, and spoiler, she doesn't have one because she's literally Pandora from the Greek myths. So I want to make Pandora more of a Wonder Woman villain. Lots of stories there because, hello, why wasn't that done in the comics? Please just give it to me. So yeah, she's more of a Wonder Woman villain, but also the big bad at the level of like, you know, the big guys who none of us like. But we love to hate. I put them in a university for no reason other than I saw these pictures on Pinterest and thought they looked cool, so I put them in a university. And yes, that meant I had to draw a lot of books, but you know what? Sometimes we do what we have to do for art. And I love having the tables in the foreground because, you know, it crops both Alex and Silver in such a nice, tasteful way that it really helps with the storytelling and like the groundedness of the image. And you could say, Nathan, you worked so hard on those feet. They're so difficult. The cowboy boots. It's okay. You saw them. That's all that matters to me. Yeah, and so now I'm just working on this illustration, and hey, I wanted to fill the place with a bunch of Greek sculptures. Why trace AI when you can look up copyright-free images of statues and redline them? That's perfectly ethical because the people who made these images are dead. And also I find that when you trace, I just plopped them in the file. Yes, part of this is laziness, but when you trace something or redline it, it literally makes the subject feel dead because you're not interpreting and engaging with the material. So like normally I have my references off to the side and I'm like looking back and forth like with the background and stuff like that, or with like clothes or cloth. But when you trace it, it just makes everything feel almost like a statue, like unreal. So I saw this technique, I think, first used in, I think, Lore Olympus. She does this thing, Rachel Smith or Smythe, I think she's Australian, could be wrong there, but she traces, like, assets on, what's the name of that program? Clip Studio, I think, has lots of assets that she traces sometimes, or she'll just literally trace a Greek statue if she needs that in the background. So I decided to take that little tip for this background here, and now I'm doing the books, and they're just honestly rectangles with a chromatic, you know, what's it called? A brush that changes the has a jitter quality to the color. I just made a bunch of rectangles for books. I don't clean up the spines because I did get kind of lazy. And yeah, I loved having the background be really textured. I end up making it very monochromatic green, and the characters kind of have a red light on them, so they really are separate from the background in a way that I enjoyed. But also, everything's still gray, so you don't know what I'm talking about, but it'll be green in a second, I promise. I just have to shade in this railing and get everything up to snuff, because you always want to work in black and white first to get your values right, as Karina preaches so wonderfully in most of her classes. And it's true, like, you do need to see how dark and light things are so that you get that level of separation. But yeah, I just love how this illustration has such dark academia vibes. I think that this would be such a fun comic to write. When I was drawing this, some people who were like watching me were like, oh, are more lesbians, Nathan? And I was like, maybe they're lesbians and maybe they're not. I like the idea that, you know, maybe these are just friends that, or like unlikely friends, because they're all sort of doing this tango where one is after the other. And then here, it might look like nothing is happening, but I promise you, this is just me drawing tons and tons of books on the bookshelves in the background. It was not fun, but it had to be done. And then, of course, to separate those values out, I had to blue and then gray those books. Yeah, we just wanted the shelves to look real. I just wanted to have that depth, so it really feels like this heightened reality of how you say a school library. Because I think the pictures that I pulled off of Pinterest for this, I couldn't find credit, which is a big thing I hate about Pinterest. Like, I wish they had credited artists better or had a way of doing that. But yeah, I think this was based off of, I think, Oxford. Like, it was some hoity-toity school library, but I just added the sculptures for you know, effect. And then this is the green I was talking about. You saw that I thought I was going to go with brown for a second, but no, I think the green gave much more separation from the characters, which I ended up liking better, and that they're complementary, but then also it gives this like Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated feel that I like as well. So I do some glows on the guns and then also some glow effects on her Black Lantern ring, which I thought looked very nice. And I love these green lanterns. They're just so moody. I do a little vignette, just soften those edges. Oh, delicious, delectable. And then yeah, we have to have like a little darkness because there's a hallway she's coming from. We're just doing the final little touches, and this is the finished illustration. So tell me, what are some of your thoughts on fridged women? I don't think it happens so much anymore, and I think, but it does still happen. Let me know your thoughts on my headcanons for these DC characters and any headcanons you might have. And if you want to support the channel, please follow me on Patreon, link down below, where for just $4 a month, you can have your name in the end credits. And speaking of end credits, here they are now. Special thanks to Anna Sophia Boyd, Axelius the Great, Bodhi, Blue Uwu, Bobby, Beck, Cake Daniel, Kay Clark, Christopher, Dabdudu, Aaron Martin, Dax Quinn, Emma Wee, Gay Jarris, J. Johar, JD Boy 2000, Johan Kitsune Chibiko, Lucky Paradox, Melon, Mild Mothman, Mistake, Native Runner, Orion Almastacia, Pinecone, Potion, Cellador, Rin, Scorching Ray, Sir Camelot, Smalls the Sax Jammer, Shenanigans, Tad the Turtle, Tarthliner, The Real Michael, Thumper Daytime, Tony, Tortilla Chips Tuesdays Anyways, Tuncher Katie Bean, and Tuppence Pies. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Nathan, and I'll upload a new video real soon. Bye!